Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of 77 WABC Sports Live. I am your host today, Mike Didino. I'm with Sid Rosenberg, as always. And Justin Ellick is back. He's getting the call back up from AAA. Got sent down for a month or so. You're back, though. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good, baby. Let's
Sid,
ride.
how you feeling?
I'm ready to go, man. Very exciting time of year.
Let's jump right into it. The biggest story in New York right now, John Sterling is retiring. Were you surprised?
I mean, I'm not surprised. You know, he's 85 years old. He has taken off a lot of games the last year or two. He doesn't travel much with the ball club anymore. I think the surprising thing is it happens during the season. I mean, he just called the Yankee-Blue Jay game a couple of days ago, so it's not like it happened before the year or even during the All-Star break. But, look, John Sterling is a treasure. I used to work at WFAN, and we would have arguments on the air. Is he entertaining? Is he a clown? Is he a buffoon? I'm like, guys, I know you want to win championships. You want to win ball games. But the truth is, baseball is just entertainment. That's all it is. And John Sterling was really entertaining for 36 years for the New York Yankees, whether it was the Bambino, El Capitan, or All Rise for Aaron Judge. He's going to be missed in a big way. Godspeed and good luck with what you do next. The great John Sterling.
Justin, big Yankee fans or
Yep.
self-proclaimed big Yankee fan. You got a favorite call of John Sterling that comes to mind?
Listen, I think you got to go A-bomb from A-Rod was at least for me. You saw a lot of those in the mid-2010s. But, my generation at least differs from Sid's in that people my age are more of the Michael K. Yes Network crowd. And actually, for me, in the mid-2010s, even leaking into, 2011 and 2012, I was muting Yes Network and just listening to the radio instead. I thought it was way more entertaining. You had the game on TV, so you had the visuals, but then instead of Michael Kay and the Yes Network crew behind you, you had John Sterling and Susan Waldman and that vibe. So I like to kind of have a little bit of a smorgasbord, if you will.
It's a veteran move, too.
Yeah, right? I feel like very tech savvy of me. But yeah, I mean, listen, on a serious note, it's sad to see him go. Obviously, the guy's not dead or anything. He's still going to be around. But hearing his voice on the airwaves is going to make this really weird, at least for the foreseeable future.
Fun fact, John Sterling's real name is what?
John Slash. Curtis Sleewood told me that this morning. I didn't know that on Sid and Friends in the morning. There'll be a nice ceremony for Mr. Sterling coming up on Saturday, April the 20th, the day after my birthday. Happens to be Adolf Hitler's birthday. Another story. Yankees will be, I guess, hosting Tampa Bay. I think you're going to be there one of those games.
Yeah, I'll be there Friday.
But that'll be Saturday. They'll give him a nice little send-off. And, again, I'll reiterate what I said moments ago. He was a major part of almost 4 decades of Yankee baseball. He's going to be missed.
Let's move along here. We'll go to our second story. We're going to do a little bit of a Yankees and Mets roundup. Yankees, it kind of gets tiring. You talk about the same thing every single week. It's on a 162-game season. We're still in April, and yet every week we still talk about the Yankees and the Mets. I guess it's because it's a sports show, and it's a New York sports show, so we have to. But the Yankees, they've lost 2 games in a row. They are now 12-5, obviously still in first place. What's your take on the Yankees right now?
Well, you hate to lose back-to-back games. Sunday's game was a little bit more, I think, humiliating. You dropped that one. You're up 2 runs. You got to close that one out in extras. Spotty defense is what loses you that game. And then you saw yesterday that leaks into the next series. Now you're in a fresh series. It leaks into your next game. Lineup goes completely soft yesterday. And you end up losing back-to-back games. No, it's not the end of the world. Of course not. You're still 17 games in. You're in first place. This is where you want it to be. The Astros still stink.
They're 6-12 in last.
Yeah. So and that's really where my worry lies. Beginning of the season, spring training. You're always worried about the Houston Astros. Really, Yankees fans weren't worried about much of anything within the division. Maybe the Orioles. But we'll see what happens. I mean, the Astros seriously need to pick it up. But as for the Yankees, no, I'm not worried. I think they'll bounce right back.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how worried are you about Gleyber Torres right now?
I really like Gleyber. I've always been a Gleyber fan. There's a reason they've kept him around year after year. Really every year his name is in the trade talks leading up to the trade deadline. And they haven't pulled the trigger on that. And I think there's a reason for it. I think he's one of the more consistent bats we've had in the lineup over the last handful of years. Obviously, he's off to a very slow start this year, both in the field and at the plate. But I have complete faith in Gleyber Torres to turn it around.
Going to Sid, Mets, they've been hot over the last 2 weeks. Say what you want, the Mets have played good baseball over the last 2 weeks or so. They're back to 8-8. They come from behind. They win 2 games on Sunday, and last night they beat the Pirates and the Royals, who both have been playing well. What do you have to say about the Mets 16 games into the season?
Well, I disagree. They've not been playing good baseball.
Great baseball.
Great. They're 8-3. That's great baseball. You know, and again, I'll go back to my days doing sports talk radio. I said before the year the Mets were done. And when the Mets were 0-5, and let me remind you, if not for a Pete Alonso home run in the 9th, 0-6, I was like, see, I was right. And this would have brought upon the most annoying daily conversations. Every time the Mets won, like you can't root for them anymore. No, you said the Mets were going to be bad, so you can't root for the Mets. No, stupid. I'm a diehard Met fan. I want the Mets to do well. Based on the way the roster was constituted, I didn't see it. Now, so far, 16 games in, they're a 500 baseball team. They've won 8 of 11. They're playing better than I thought they were. Now, they can have a great year like you thought they would, or they could be miserable. I don't know. But at the 16 games, they're pitching better than I thought. They've won in a bunch of different ways. Good comeback wins. You know, Harrison Bader, big hit last night. Brandon Nimmo's had a couple of big hits. Stop the Pete Alonso trade talk. It's ridiculous. The guy's got 40 home runs already. It's game 16 of the regular season. 40. So 40. So, and they beat, like you said, good teams. The Pirates, the Royals. So look, it's a good, the Braves, 2 out of 3. 16 games in. I'll say it right now. Maybe I was wrong, maybe not. But right now, the last 2 weeks, I'm enjoying watching the New York Mets.
And that's what's nice for Mets fans. We, as Met fans, are used to not playing competitive baseball in July. And here's a fun fact for you. The last time the Mets were 500 was on June 4th of last season.
Wow.
So it's been almost a year of the Mets playing under 500 baseball.
30-30 then, right? 30-30, I think, even.
That's right.
Yeah.
30-30. I mean, look, we're going to talk winter sports in just a minute with the Knicks and Rangers and Islanders all going to the playoffs. All you want
is competitive baseball in
right. You
August
want
and
both
September.
teams to be involved, not just the Yankees, because it looks, at least on paper, like maybe one team makes the playoffs in football if the quarterback stays healthy. My team, I don't think so.
Where I'm surprised about the Mets is their start. We sat here, we said the Mets have a good lineup. That was one thing we went to the season, we felt confidence with. I didn't feel confident in the rotation. How could you? Jose Quintana was starting opening day. The Mets ERA staff, second in the MLB, only behind the Pirates, and that's going to win you baseball games.
No doubt. And the bullpen's been terrific, and Diaz has come back after missing a full year. He's been great. And look, Manaea didn't have a very good start his last outing. He wasn't good at all.
But he was dynamite his first 2.
Right, his first 2 he was great. Quintana will pitch tonight, and the Mets keep coming back. Down 3-0 to Pittsburgh. They scored 6 unanswered. But, yeah, no question, the Mets starting pitching and the Yanks. And the Yanks, they're top 5 of the American League in ERA. No Garrett Cole, no Senga. Both aces out. Both teams pitching very, very well.
One more quick baseball story. Trevor Bauer, who's kind of been boycotted by the MLB, made his first regular season Mexican start.
Same thing.
Not trying to be. Mexico start last night. 3 2/3, 4 runs, 7 hits. Probably not a good sign for him if he wants to get back into the MLB. I'll try to keep this relatively short. Should Bauer and will Bauer pitch in the MLB, I guess at this point, ever again?
Yeah, he will. Yeah,
you think he will?
Yeah, I think he's still top of form. I mean, listen, everybody's going to have bad outings from time to time. You're not always going to have your ace stuff. He certainly had good stuff when he was facing that, kind of patched together Yankees lineup in spring training, but still was able to K some really good Major League Baseball hitters and relatively easily. The guy's got good stuff, I just think he's way too good not to play at the Major League Baseball level again.
I agree, and these numbers don't matter. It's kind of like first start of spring training. They just want to make sure he can get the ball over the plate. He's got some decent velocity. If all those things continue, which, like you said, he showed against the Yanks a few months ago, he'll get some starts in Mexico. He'll be back in the major leagues before you know it.
Let's go to some hockey. Rangers and Islanders roundup. Now, Rangers, they clinched the President's Trophy last night. That means they have the most points in the NHL, a.k.a. they could argue they are the best team in the NHL entering the playoffs. We're all Ranger fans here. Right now, we still don't know who they're playing. Is there a team that you prefer to play round 1, or is it just...
Don't care. They are so much better than all the 4 teams. You've got Pittsburgh, Washington, Detroit, and the Flyers. Now, the Flyers beat them last time, I understand that, but they're so much better. 114 points, great year, 55 wins. These are all club records. Great year. Panarin, 49 goals this year. Kreider, close to 40 scores on just about every single power play. Even guys like Zibanejad, Lafreniere had a great year. Shesterkin a shutout. They're ready to go. This is a great hockey team. They should go into this postseason as the odds-on favorite to at least get to the Cup, if not win the Stanley Cup. The team I would not want to face in the first round is the Islanders. They've been playing great hockey. They decided about a month ago they're going to treat every game like a playoff game, and they ended up gobbling up that big playoff spot. They got Carolina. That's not exactly a picnic. In fact, that's a very tough guy, probably like a huge underdogs. So the Islanders, I'd be a little nervous about. The rest of these teams should be a second-round playoff entry for the Rangers.
Islanders, they clinched a 3 seed in the Metro. They beat the Devils last night. They'll take on the Hurricanes, who are actually the favorite to win the Cup, according to FanDuel. Islanders plus 260 to win that series. Back to you, Justin. Going back to the Rangers now. Is it Stanley Cup or bust?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't 2015 when they won their President's Cup. You got to compare it to that year. I mean, and most people would say that they were a year away in 2015 from really reaching their peak. That group of guys, that they were a little bit ahead of schedule. This year, that's not the case. This team is ready to go. They're firing on all cylinders, offense, defense, between the pipes. I mean, this is the team that has to get it done. If it was Cup or bust in 2015, it's surely Cup or bust this year.
I'm going to bring up one stat. I want to know if this scares you guys. I'm a nerd. I'm an analytics nerd. It's just the way I'm wired. The Rangers, 5-on-5 this year, are +1.
Yes.
That is the 22nd best ratio in the NHL. The Islanders have a better one for them for what it's worth. The Rangers, if you've watched them, you know 5-on-4, the power play, that's their bread and butter. Also in the penalty kill, they've been great. Are you concerned that the Rangers are, on paper, an average team 5-on-5?
No, because that's not where the whole game is played. Now, the majority of the game is played 5-on-5, I get it, but teams do win Stanley Cups based on their special teams. And you just talked about it. The Rangers' special teams on the power play offensively and killing the penalty defensively are the best in hockey. So would I be happier if they were +9, 5-on-5? Sure. But if your special teams are that good, your goaltending is that good, you're going to put a tremendous amount of pressure on the opposing team that if, God forbid, they get a 2-minute minor, the Rangers are going to score. That's a lot of pressure. I think the Rangers will be just fine.
Mm-hmm. We're going to go to basketball now. Jalen Brunson, who's now almost a king of New York in the basketball sense, carries the Knicks to the 2 seed. Knicks somehow finish over Milwaukee, despite Milwaukee getting Damian Lillard and pairing him with Giannis Antetokounmpo. Brunson, what can you really say about Jalen Brunson at this point? But what we do know is it's going to have to correlate to the playoffs.
Yeah.
So the Knicks are the 2 seed. Right now, we do not know who they'll play. Saturday is game 1. They'll either play the 76ers or the Miami Heat. Do you have a preference?
Not really. I mean, listen, I'm terrified of Joel Embiid. I think he's a beast, and when he's going right with the Sixers, that's a really tough team to beat. But both of these opponents are going to be tough for the Knicks. I mean, how much farther can Jalen Brunson carry him, man? The guy's got to be exhausted. I mean, every night he goes out there and he's pouring in 40 points like it's a 20-point night for most guys. I mean, it's really incredible to watch, but how much further can he take it? Now you're in the playoffs. These are the best of the best. You know, every now and then you get a lowly team in the NBA that you could walk all over. But you're not going to get that in these playoffs, especially, you know, with lower seeds like the 76ers. I mean, they're a low seed because they were missing Embiid for most of the year.
Exactly.
You know, and now you get him back, and now they're not as low as they should be, or, you know, as high as they should be.
If he's healthy, there's a chance that they're the 2 seed.
Right, exactly. So,
which is an argument we were just having. So let's just say...
Yeah, I mean, if you asked me the same question, I would say, yes, I want Miami. Now, I don't really want Miami, to Justin's point, because they don't match up well against Miami either, and Butler plays very well against the Knicks. But given the choice, I'll take Miami over Philadelphia. Look, Brunson has assumed the role of 2 players. We talked about this last week. They lost Julius Randle. Love or hate him. I know, Craig, you hate him. I know you don't love him. He's good for 20. So now Brunson says, I got to score for me and for Julius. He's been able to do it. Other guys have come through. DiVincenzo, he's become a decent scorer. He can shoot the ball very well. Bogdanovich has done a good job coming off the bench. They've got guys who can contribute. And they can win. I mean, Boston is the one team. We keep talking about this, but it's true. They go 5 deep. They've got Tatum. They've got Brown. They got guys like Drew Holiday, just got $150 million. He's their 4th option. Knicks don't have that. Knicks have Brunson and a bunch of guys that can contribute. Can they win? Sure. Can they beat Milwaukee, Philadelphia, any one of these teams? Sure. Can they beat Boston? I don't think so. But at least for now, do I want Miami or Philly? I'd rather have Miami. But can the Knicks win? Of course they can. Let's ride the wave.
I just want to get this on the record because we were talking about this before we went live. If the Knicks played the Sixers, who would be the favorite?
Well, again, I always go by the seed. So if the Knicks are the 2 seed and the Sixers are the 6 seed or 7 seed, then yes, 9 times out of 10, the 2 seed is going to be the favorite, if not 10 times out of 10. Now, if you said to me, well, here's the problem. Embiid played the Knicks 4 times this year when he was healthy, and the Sixers were 4-0 against the Knicks when Embiid was out there. Then I'd say, well, hold on a second. That may affect the line. But very rarely are you going to find a 7 seed to be favored over a 2 seed. I know it happens, but that's a very, very rare occasion.
I think Philly's going to be minus 160. I'm just putting that out there.
That's a big line. That's a big line. If they're minus 160, I'm telling you right now, you bet not a little, a lot on the Knicks.
Mm-hmm. One more question before we move on here. Jalen Brunson, you brought him up. Just a walking 40-point player.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask Sid first, and we'll go to you. Every Knick that you've ever seen play, Jalen Brunson ranks where on the all-time Knicks list?
I will say this. Right now, to me, he's the 2nd greatest Knick point guard ever. No one's going to catch Clyde. It's like Jordan with me. I don't care what LeBron does, and LeBron's magnificent. You can put him number 2, that's fine. Jordan's it. Clyde 1, Brunson 2. All-time Knicks, he's not Ewing yet. And the greatest offensive talent they ever saw with the Knicks, and Carmelo was also excellent, great offensive player, was Bernard King. For a couple of years, 10 feet to the basket, there was no better player in the world than Bernard King. He was a point machine. But in terms of point guard play already in 2 years, and I love Michael Ray Richardson, Frazier 1, Brunson 2.
To you, Justin, I guess we can't really... I remember we had this conversation a long time ago that I said you can't really grade players we've never watched.
Right.
So I'm going to ask you players that we have watched. Jalen Brunson or Carmelo Anthony, who do you think is the better Knick?
Jalen Brunson. I think so.
Be careful.
I know. I'm
Carmelo won 54 games on year, won a playoff series. Brunson's won nothing.
I know.
So let Brunson
Well, they
win
won a playoff series last year.
Yeah, I know, but I'd be careful. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I will say this. He
I'm Team Brunson
sounded like
too, by the
dog.
way.
Be careful there, Mikey.
I think he tied, either tied or passed Carmelo Anthony in terms of points per game this season for 3rd all-time on that Knicks list. First on that list, to your point, is Bernard King, and that was the year he's number 1 on that list with 40-point performances in a season. I'm not sure the exact number, but he's number 1. Brunson's number 3 on that list. Yeah, I mean, listen, right, guys, we've watched. I watched a lot more Jalen Brunson than I did Carmelo Anthony, and Carmelo dropped off towards the end there. I mean, it was not an ugly finish for Carmelo, or it was not a pretty finish for Carmelo in the orange and blue. So, you know, it's all going to pan out. We'll see how the rest of Brunson's Knicks career goes. But just based on the eye test, for me, I mean, I love watching Brunson play more than I did Carmelo.
I don't even think it was close. I think
no, it's very close.
I think 9 out of 10.
Again, you're young, and I remember that Carmelo team that won 54 games. And
the problem with Carmelo was
there's no problem.
No, there is a problem. He's not a team basketball player. He's not.
Don't
He's
take
really
me back
not.
to the days of Mark Malusis and the band, please. That's why I love Sports Talk Radio. Can you tell me the second option on the Knicks when they won 54
Swish.
games? Excuse me?
J.R. Smith. Swish. The great.
Thank you very much.
He won 6th Man of the Year that year, though.
That's a good point.
They didn't have, no, I believe their starting 5 was Raymond Felton, J.R. Smith,
Tyson
Carmelo,
Chandler,
Iman Shumpert, and Tyson Chandler.
They won 54 games.
And they had guys like Landry Fields coming off the bench.
Right, so you do know.
Steve Novak.
They beat the Celtics in the playoffs.
Yep.
Novak made some big threes. He can shoot. Carmelo was magnificent. I don't want to hear this. He didn't pass enough. He's not a great defensive player. Listen, if you're great at one skill in basketball, you're a great player. In other words, Dennis Rodman was a great rebounder. He's a Hall of Famer. He was a great rebounder. Carmelo Anthony was a great scorer. That's okay. Doesn't make you a bad player. In New York, you argue and argue. Well, he didn't play defense enough. He didn't pass enough. He was a great scorer. He's an all-time great scorer. Jalen Brunson's a different player. He's a point guard. He will distribute. He'll do some other things. But I am not okay with the Anthony bashing. It wasn't his fault that the Knicks made the trade for him. Go back to Knick management and blame them for that. He came here, and he made this town very exciting. And when the Knicks played the Heat with Carmelo Anthony, those were game watchers. So you can take Brunson over Carmelo, But to say Carmelo wasn't great, to me, is beyond stupid.
All right, well said. I really don't necessarily disagree too much
Thank
with
you.
anything you said. Carmelo's a great scorer. Let's score.
That's
All
it.
right, speaking of great scorers, Caitlin Clarke goes number. You laughing?
I am a little bit.
You don't want to get canceled over here.
No.
She goes number 1 pick to the WNBA, the Indiana Fever. Will you watch Caitlin Clarke play in a game this season?
Of course not. That's not going to get me canceled. I haven't watched a WNBA game in my life.
You never will.
And listen, I know Rebecca Lobo, and I know Sue Bird, and I've had great conversations with other WNBA Hall of Fame players. Great players. And this girl is a spectacular player. She was at Iowa. She will be at Indiana. I think the funny part of the story is we've got salespeople working right outside this
I was gonna
store
get to that.
that make more money than Caitlin Clarke. She'll make about $75,000 this year. I think you made the point last week. It was a great point. Here she was at Iowa, taking on South Carolina. More viewers for women's basketball than men. Now she's going to go to a place where no one's going to watch. No one watches Indiana Fever basketball, even with Caitlin Clarke. But she's a great player. I wish her nothing but the best. But to assume now that we're going to start watching WNBA for Caitlin Clarke is a rather large assumption.
Caitlin Clarke going to make 76,500. I almost said million
Not
because I'm so
million.
used
Yeah.
to saying it.
No, yeah.
$76,000. Now in Indiana, that's probably like 95, but whatever the case is, seems like it's not a great payday for the best or the most upcoming WNBA star in recent memory. Do you have a problem with women's pay in basketball?
No, I don't have a. I mean, come on, what am I? I don't know what people should be paid in what profession, where it is. I mean, I will say I didn't even know Indiana had a WNBA basketball
You
team.
could have told me
before
everybody
yesterday.
on the Indiana Fever walked past me in the
Yeah.
subway today, and I would have said, I
would
had no
not
idea.
recognize them. And that's why they get paid what they get
I'll
paid.
answer for you.
You know.
It's just like radio, okay? You don't get big salaries in radio unless you sell the
Right.
show, okay? So your salaries in the WNBA are based on the revenue the team brings in. You could be the greatest player that God ever created. They're not making that type of money. Don't forget, the women had more viewers than the men for college basketball final. The money wasn't even close. The men blew the women away. So that's how you determine how you pay people. It's not based on talent, it's on revenue, and the WNBA doesn't make any money. Clearly, when the best player in the world is making less than $100,000.
76 this year, 78 next year, 85 in 2026. I mean, that's literally laughable. And if you look at the MLB minimum pay, $750,000. NBA minimum pay is like $600,000. And now Caitlin Clarke, who was 1-1, the most profound WNBA player I can remember, is making $76,000. But you hit it on the head. Supply versus demand. That's America. If you don't make money or you don't make revenue, you don't get paid.
That's the bottom line.
Any last thoughts before we go?
No, not really.
Sid, you want to wrap us up?
I do. We do this every week, and I love it. And by the way, you do a great job, and so does Justin, and so does Jimmy. And I come on here with all this vim and vigor, and I know what I'm talking about, and I'm great. I've been wrong about everything. I said it was Ohtani that made all those bets, and it looks more and more
That's
like
dead
it
wrong.
wasn't.
Yeah.
Guys like 18 million in. I said the Mets are going to be the worst team in baseball. They've won 8 of 11. So just because I know a lot about a lot, and I can bring up players and stuff that these guys can't, because I'm old, I'll be 57 on Friday, and I've got a really good delivery, you believe me, doesn't mean I'm always right. But when it's all said and done, I'll be right most of the time.
And that's all that matters, and a great way to wrap it up. Thank you for tuning in to another episode, and we will see you next week.
All right, we're good.
Nice.